Shall we come to order? We good? Audio, visually wise? All right, great. Welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Albany County Legislature's Law Committee. First thing we'll do is take roll.
Sure, Mr. Chair, Kuhn.
Here.
Reedy.
Here.
Feeney.
Here.
Lemurlier. Here. McLaughlin. Klodsky. Here. Ricard.
Here.
Bergdorf.
Here.
And Pearlie.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Great. First item on the agenda is approving the previous meeting's minutes. Can I have a motion? Mr. Reedy?
Second.
Me? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. We're going to go a little out of order, as we often do. First item that we're going to take is item 25 on everyone's agenda, which is authorizing an agreement with Building Bridges Supervision LLC regarding supervised visitation services and amending the 2025 Public Defender's Office budget. The Albany County Public Defender, Judge Herrick, is here to present. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, and with me tonight is Adam Kirkman, who's the coordinator of the Opioid Settlement Fund, which is held by Management and Budget and distributed from Management and Budget. The reason that we're here tonight, we have a relatively modest contract that we're seeking approval for. That is for the public defender to receive funding in the total amount of $150,000 for a 2-year contract with Building Bridges for supervised visitation for our family court parent clients to reunify the families. We had a supervised visitation previously through St. Catherine's. They stopped that service. Conversations and discussions that we've had with Building Bridges, they provide a superior product. It's actually where the people from Building Bridges go to where the parent is meeting the child in an approved location, and they're present during the visitation. Instead of having to get the parent that often doesn't have the funding to do this to travel to get to where the supervised visitation would occur. So we have that contract that we're seeking approval for, but the real reason we're here tonight is the method of funding. This is to be funded over the 2 years in the amount of $150,000 from the Opioid Settlement Fund. And usually when we have a contract that we come before you for approval on, we have the money in hand. In this situation, we will be submitting bills to Management and Budget, bills that have been approved by us from the provider, Building Bridges, and then the fund would pay out of a set-aside of the $150,000 the vouchers that are submitted. And it's my understanding that all distribution of opioid settlement funds require an RLA. So that's why we're here.
Great. Does anyone have any questions about this particular item? Okay, can I have a motion? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, item 26 on our agenda is amendment. Oh, okay. I guess we're gonna go a little bit out of order. We're gonna go to number 29, which is authorizing an agreement with the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services regarding the statewide targeted reductions in intimate violence grant and amending the 2025 District Attorney's Office budget. And the Albany County District Attorney, Lee Kinlan, is here. Floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for taking me out of order. I'm here tonight with Pat Collins, who was instrumental in getting us this grant money, and I'm asking the legislature tonight for your authority and permission to be able to spend that money. This DRIVE grant is a pilot program. It's grant money from the state earmarked for the prevention of and solutions to domestic violence in the city of Albany. And it is a city of Albany program initially. Just for some background, when New York wanted to come up with this funding stream, they did it by looking at DIRs in certain communities, and the city of Albany is that community. But this grant money totaling $377,739 is going to allow the district attorney's office to hire 2 more district attorneys, as well as crime victim advocate for domestic violence. So, of course, if I'm able to hire 2 DAs just for domestic violence purposes in Albany, I could then repurpose 2 of my DAs to cover cities and towns and felonies and things like that. So this is a force multiplier. It's going towards a really good cause, and it's our hope and expectation that should we utilize this money effectively, we're going to be able to convince the state to expand this program to our suburban towns and villages in the county of Albany, where obviously people live and domestic violence is an issue. So it's our request tonight to be able to spend this money.
Great, thanks. Does anyone have any questions, comments? Mr. Bergdorf?
Question, Lee, do we have any sense as to whether or not this is a permanent grant stream, or whether this is a one-off that the legislature authorized? I see that it's just for, 3/1/25 through 3/31/26. If you hire these people, is there any sense that there would be money available at the end of this grant period?
So it has been told to me that this funding stream is, in all likelihood, going to be permanent. I mean, those assurances are probably worth the paper they're printed on, but I've been told that these grant streams, this funding from the state, can be counted on for future budget years as well. And again, as I said, it's really our hope and expectation that we're going to be able to expand this program. And that's, again, some of the things we were told as we applied for and got this money.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion? Mr. Bergdorf? Second. Okay. Justin? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you all. Enjoy the evening.
Okay, now we're gonna move to number 26. Are we taking these all together, or are we gonna do them one at a time? I realize it's. Oh, we do them one at a time? Okay, fine. All right, so we're gonna have 3 items in a row here, but the first one is amending resolution number 612 for 2024 regarding prevention, education, and amending the 2025 Crime Victim and Sexual Violence Center budget. And here to speak on that is Amanda Wingle, the director of the Crime Victim and Sexual Violence Center. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for seeing me tonight. I'm here to discuss 3 RLAs tonight. They're all grant related. The first one, number 26, that we're starting with is because of the availability of additional funding from DOH for our Communities Mobilizing Against Violence grant. They reached out to us and said there's extra funding available, so we're just essentially requesting permission to accept that funding. I don't know if you want me to do.
Let's go one at a time, just to
Okay,
keep it
okay.
procedurally clean.
Sure.
Is that all you have on number 1?
Yes.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions just about number 26? Okay, hearing none, can I have a motion? I'll move it. Speedy? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, second item, authorizing an agreement with the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services regarding sexual assault crisis and prevention services and amending the 2025 Crime Victim and Sexual Violence Center budget.
So this is a grant that we have received for many years. It's the Rape Prevention and Education Grant from the Department of Criminal Justice Services. It's one of our primary funding sources for our prevention education programs, and it can also be used for direct victim services. It's a very flexible grant, and it's also state funding, which is a good thing given the kind of uncertainty of what's going on at the federal level.
Okay, great. Any questions on this one? Comments? All right, hearing none, can I have a motion? Move it. Speedy? Spotsky? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, item 28, amending the 2025 Crime Victim and Sexual Violence Center budget, prevention education.
Yes, so this also has to do with the DOH grant that was referenced in the first RLA we discussed. This is simply deciding how we're going to allocate existing funding. So if you may remember, I came before you in, late last year, and I talked about this $170,000 grant that we were getting. This is just simply to allocate a portion of that to the fees for services line.
Any questions on this one? All right, hearing none, can I have a motion? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you all.
Okay. With that, we are going back to item number 2. However, agenda items 2 through 17 are tabled at request of sponsor, which brings us around to item 18, which is a public hearing on proposed local law number E for 2025, a local law of the County of Albany, New York, imposing an additional 1% rate of tax on sales and uses of tangible personal property and of certain services and on occupancy of hotel rooms and amusement charges pursuant to Article 29 of the tax law of the state of New York. Who is presenting on this? Oh, is it?
Just a public hearing.
Oh, okay. All right, so just public hearing. Anybody have any discussion, questions? Mr. Berdorf?
I'll move it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item 19 is public hearing on proposed local law F for 2025, a local law of the County of Albany, New York, enacting a mortgage recording tax pursuant to section 253P of the tax law of the state of New York. This is also just
Yeah,
public
public
hearing?
hearing, yeah.
Okay.
I'll move it.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 20 is public hearing on proposed local law number Q for 2024, a local law of the County of Albany, New York, creating chapter blank of the Albany County Code regarding the creation of the Albany County Office of Assigned Counsel. So first of all, I believe we have to do an amendment here.
Yes, we'll need a motion to amend to update the public hearing date to July 29th of 2025.
Okay.
I'll make that one.
Feeny, second. Srini. All in favor of amending this particular item?
Aye.
Okay. With that amendment now, can we have a motion to move this
Move
to
it.
public hearing? Srini, Spotsky, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now, we move on to our last two items on the agenda this evening are 21 and 22. 21 is a resolution of the County of Albany, New York, authorizing the execution of an administrative services funding agreement by and between the county and the Albany Convention Center Authority. And then 22 is a resolution of the County of Albany, New York, authorizing the execution of an administrative services agreement by and between the county and the Albany Convention Center Authority.
22 should read resolution of the County of Albany authorizing the execution of a reserve fund replenishment agreement by and between the county and the Albany Convention Center Authority. I'm not sure what happened on the agenda.
Okay, thanks for that correction. Seems very familiar. It's the second time I read it. All right, floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Do you want me to go?
I was requested to be here to assist on a Herculean effort that was spearheaded by the chairwoman, so I will cede my time.
Great, great. So there's a local law that tonight we're having a public hearing on, so not moving it out. And then there's these two resolutions, 249 and 250, which also have, they're basically legal funding agreements and also administrative service agreements. And we'll go through those in a second. But I am going to zoom out for a second and start us off by kind of explaining what this is all about. And that's what the slide deck is about. So if you guys are willing, we'll start with that. And then we can talk some of the details in the resolutions, the local law, if you so choose, and also the backup documents, the funding agreements and administrative services. So this, these two resolutions and local law all all are constructed around an arrangement that Albany County has entertained and engaged in with the convention center. And we have with us the CEO of the convention center, Monica Kuzieski. I always screw that up. Which is terrible because I talk to Monica now like once a day. We have been working together on the concept that is essentially a win-win, I think, and I think a lot of us think, for the county as well as for the convention center. The convention center approached the county, specifically County Exec McCoy, to ask whether the county would be able to enter into an agreement to essentially provide a backstop for the debt reserve for the convention center's bond agreement, or bond that they would be securing on their own, through their own funding mechanisms, and we'll get to that. In exchange, the convention center, Monica and I, worked out an arrangement where the county, Albany County, would receive administrative fees and other benefits that would essentially, most of which come off the top of the convention center's hot tax, which I know has been a long-standing issue for this body, for the executive, because we have wanted to see our economic development arm, which does receive a slight percentage of the hot tax, we wanted to see the funding allocation revisited. So just to level set on the screen, first slide, this is the status quo, this is the current hot tax funding allocations, how they play out. You can see that the Albany, the Convention Center Authority receives the bulk of the hot tax, and of course at the bottom, the Albany County Alliance, our economic development arm, receives the smallest portion. So that's to level set where we are today. Now, what we were trying to do, again, is create sort of this win-win, where we would agree through this administrative services agreement and also this reserve fund agreement, we would agree to be this, I call it a backstop. In exchange, up on the screen is what the proposal is, and this is outlined in the resolution, but also importantly in those legal documents that I think all of the lawyers at the table who work for the county ledge have inputted on tremendously. In 2025, so when this bond is materializes, the CRC would receive a one-time fee for the bonding, which would total just a 1% of the bond, which is about $380,000. So that's a fee in exchange for the bonding. And I'll go through how the bonding kind of works to get to the convention center. Also in exchange, the convention center has agreed to annually, starting in 2026, provide a fee to Albany County, $150,000 for the purposes of maintaining that walkway between the MVP and the convention center, which the county uses, MVP uses, and the convention center does. Now, this is where the administrative fees get kind of outlined, and what we see as some benefit that comes right out of hot tax revenue. So essentially, we sat down with the convention center leaders, Monica and board members, and a couple of us on behalf of the legislature and the county exec, and established that, you know what, the convention center needs a baseline of funding, and beyond that, they're very open to an arrangement where they would share a percentage of their hot tax growth. And their flat kind of status quo to keep the lights on and the operation running is about $5.5 million annually. So the agreement is that if the new year's hot tax receipts are if their growth is 0 to 2% over the prior year. So you have a baseline year, and if hot tax receipts for the next year grow between only 0 and 2%, we would not get a fee. So Albany County would not receive a fee. If the new year's hot tax receipt growth is anywhere from 2.1% to 5%, our fee would be a 5% fee. So the 5% fee is not off the total hot tax, it's off of the total of the convention center's hot tax receipts. So that's not the total, that's their bucket of hot tax. The next band of administrative fees are if hot tax receipt growth in a given year compared to the prior year is anywhere from 5.1% to 10% over the prior year, and our fee that we would get would go up to 7% off of the convention center's hot tax. Now, if there's gangbusters, and remember the convention center's plan is to double in size, so that will generate more meetings, more events, more hotel room usage. We also will see the hot tax growth because of the short-term rentals, which will also be folded into that number. But if we see that growth, where the hot tax receipt growth is over 10% over the prior year, then our fee goes up to 10%. The idea being that the convention center's expectations of growth through their expansion of more meetings, more activity, economic activity, if that pans out as projected, which it should, they've spent a lot of effort, energy, time, and resources in putting together their expansion plan. If it does, Albany County would take a share of their hot tax receipts because of that growth, and you can see how it's outlined. I'm going to keep going, and then we can stop for questions, so in case you have any here, they might be answered. So this next slide just gives you a little bit of paint a picture. So this is painting the picture. So we did some projections here about what those numbers would look like. The Albany County Alliance now, the last 2024 numbers that we received, the Alliance received was about $800,000. So these fees on the far right are predicated on the fee payment, as you can see, and that translates to an extra, in the case of an extra 5% fee that would come off of the convention center's hot tax of $300,000. So over time, what we hope to see is that our economic development arm will receive payments that will go up each year that are connected to the growth, the economic activity and growth that is prompted by the expansion of the convention center. And then under the title up there, it just gives you a little reminder of what I call them the bands, how those bands of growth work. Okay, on top of that, Monica and I, at the very end, I think I was in the parking lot or someplace when I said to her, what if this convention center economic activity is just gangbusters, like beyond 10%? Is there something we could do together that would essentially keep our partnership together and think creatively about additional projects, additional things we could do together? Monica came back to us with this idea that we would also, and this is articulated in the resolutions, that we would create this innovation fund that would be essentially a committee that would be formed anticipating that we would see this massive growth. And the threshold is that if we see hot tax receipts increase 4% or greater for 2 or more consecutive years. So we're still going to get that administrative fee that I just articulated, but in addition to that, we would have a committee made up of county legislature folks, appointed folks, the county execs folks, and the convention center, where we would sit and talk about some innovative ideas for how to spend some additional funds to invest in, I like this term, people and places within the geographic boundary of the convention center, which is 1 mile? 1 mile. A mile radius around the convention center. So this is modeled, I think, after an MVP, similar innovation fund. There's going to be more detail kind of added to that, but we like that idea. We also thought this will continue our kind of mutually connected partnership that would continue to work together through this kind So this is, and I obviously have talked to some media, so we outlined kind of the timeline. We have been talking together about this idea and this construct for many, many, many weeks. But obviously, these ideas take a long time to flesh out and then anchor to a resolution and a local law. The local law merely kind of constructs the framework, the details and kind of the nitty-gritty, all the stuff that the lawyers spend lots of hours and time and effort and energy, which we do have changes that were made and redlined in the 2 resolutions that mostly deal with definitions. If we have questions on that, Thomas can get into detail. But this was our timeline. We did introduce the local law by Rule 11 at our May meeting. We moved out we referred it to Law Committee on May 28th and May 29th. They were discussed at those committees. And then the public hearing, we moved out the public hearing, which is tonight for the local law. We can't move out the local law until after the public hearing, so we will do that in a post-public forum law committee meeting at our July 14th meeting. Audit and Finance will have a similar presentation tomorrow with pretty much the same lineup here. And I just mentioned the post-public forum law committee, which we will schedule. And then our goal is to have a July 14th legislative vote on the 2 resolutions and the local law. And that's our timeline. So again, the 2 resolutions, 249 and 250. 249 outlines all of the legal description of how the reserve fund replenishment agreement will work. In other words, the risk to the county is that if the convention center cannot pay their debt reserve payment, Albany County will pay that and will be replenished by taking our payment off of the hot tax receipts that we would normally just send right away to the convention center. So in other words, we will make ourselves whole first and then give them the rest of their hot tax receipts. So that's all articulated in lots of language in the reserve fund replenishment agreement that the county attorney has reviewed, outside counsel has reviewed, that the lawyers from the convention center, the lawyers in Albany County, our lawyers, lots of lawyers. And then 250, resolution 250 is the administrative services agreement. So this is the funding agreement that contemplates how that $150,000 walkway annual fee would work. And then it also deals with those bands of additional administrative fees that we would receive. The resolutions timeline, on June 9th, those were referred to committee. Tonight, obviously, is the June 25th law committee meeting. We can move out the resolutions, and then tomorrow, we will do the same at the July 26th Audit and Finance meeting, and then our goal is a July 14th vote on the floor. Just reminders, because I think it's really important to keep all of this front and center. We are not bonding for this. The convention center and we'll go through that in a second, is the entity that will be leasing those bonds. They will receive those we'll walk through, but Albany County is not bonding for this. This is a 30-year agreement. The reason it's a 30-year agreement is because our obligations on the debt reserve payments to cover them is 30 years. So Monica and I said, you know what, let's have everything be 30 years. If we're gonna get administrative fees out of that, it should be connected to the life of the bond. Again, the additional money coming to the county is this one-time payment that goes to the CRC, which is 1%, that's the $380,000, that would be this summer presumably, and then the walkway annual fee. And again, we replenish ourselves first if we ever have to cover that debt reserve payment. Again, additional reminders, Albany County, we are not bonding. The CRC is actually going to obtain the bonds. What they're going to do is then sell the bonds to the CIDC, who will then lease the bonds to the convention center. And I think I've said those last 2 points. So I'm going to stop there. I'm also, do you want to sit next to me? Sure. Just in case there's a question for Monica, who's knee-deep in bonding discussions right now. But again, we've got a lot of folks here who've been putting a lot of sweat equity into this for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So if you have any questions, please, we'll entertain them.
Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Burdorf?
I do. Please accept my questions as a sign of my ignorance as opposed to a lack of support, because I truly intend to support this. I think it's a good thing. And I appreciate you and your staff working with our staff to keep them apprised at every step of the way. That's a great thing. Could you explain to me, because I really don't understand it. I mean, I understand how we have the giant pool of the hot tax, which comes from your venues, everybody else's venues, but it also comes from the probably 70% of hotel rooms that are in the town of Colony. Can you describe for me what the bucket is, what's in the bucket where you're gonna go from year to year and that's the percentage that increases? Am I?
Yeah, I don't really understand your question.
Okay.
So you're talking about, where,
I think Monica said, if you want to grab a record.
sure, so the hotel occupancy tax
Right.
receipts are generated from the 60 hotels-ish. There's 60-ish, there's 60
Yeah.
on the STAR list.
Yep.
Some of them are closed, so they need to clean that up, but those STAR reports are generated, and then each hotelier and hotel entity submits those to the county, and then the county provides the information, does the tabulation, and that's how you get your bucket, right, your quarterly tax receipts.
But that's the full, that's the.
That's the 11 point whatever million,
Yeah,
that big
okay,
thing, right?
right.
So, and then it's distributed down from there. And Mike Hoffman from Turf Hotels is on our board, and he has a great quote. He says, what's good for downtown is good for the county. Because if your downtown facilities and your downtown hotels are full, people will go to the outskirts or go to, I was just in Glenmont there's the Four Points Hotel, right? So if they need to be in the vicinity of Albany's filled, they'll go and they'll push people, it'll push the business out to those other hoteliers. And Mike Hoffman is often quoted as saying that what's good for downtown is good for the outskirts, and what's good for the outskirts is good for downtown. Because if there's big things that are happening on Wolf Road or at the Desmond or something like that, and there's need for hotel rooms, they're gonna look in Albany County and look for some of those other things. But all of those hotels and all of us contribute to that bigger piece. MVP contributes to it, Discover Albany contributes to it, we contribute to it, Empire State Plaza contributes to it, all the venues in the area contribute.
So are we talking about the growth of that 11 million?
Yes.
Or some subset? So it's the growth of the whole gross hotel tax?
Correct, so
Okay.
it's the sum is greater than the parts, right? So if the destination, and in our industry, we call it the destination. So the destination is successful and grows, then your overall pot grows.
Okay,
It's not
but
just
if, but
our
if somebody
individual
is
pot.
having an out-of-town wedding at the Desmond, that money goes to the hotel tax?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
so,
Not the food and beverage, just the hotel rooms.
just the hotel?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, you get the sales tax, but
So the 2%, 2 to 4%, 4 to 5%, all comes, is all calibrated annually off of that gross number?
correct.
Right.
Okay, that's great. Is there any, when you start talking about innovation funds and stuff limited to a mile, are there projects that could be funded outside of that mile in any way, shape, or form?
So I think that's something that we would have to have a conversation about. My enabling legislation is limited to 1 mile radius of the Capitol. Literally, I can build facilities and amenities and projects within 1 mile of the state capitol. That's the enabling legislation for the authority. Because it is reinvesting in the very community that we're trying to benefit from, and that's, on New York State Public Authority legislation, we are a public benefit corporation. We are placed, as you all remember, 20 years ago when this all started, we were placed for the benefit of downtown Albany and Albany County. The purpose of doing that innovation fund, or whatever name we deem it to be, is to literally benefit the community that this convention center, the hoteliers, the venues, MVP will benefit from that, and everybody would benefit from that down in downtown.
So
But
that's
that's
sort
where
of
it
like a host fee for the locals?
It's a most enabling statute.
No.
I mean, but
So,
that's where it
so the
comes from.
fund, yeah, the fund is more about, it's similar to the MVP fund, your innovation fund you have for the MVP, but it is more people in place oriented rather
Yeah,
than
but the
sponsoring
MVP
things.
fund now, in this month's RLAs, is going to be paying for and building a recreation center in the hill towns in Bern. So the MVP fund has a broader catchment basis for the benefit. And it strikes me that, and I'd like you to think about this, that if you're using Albany County's credit and the hotel tax that's generated by the great majority of rooms that are outside the city of Albany, that there should be some benefit structure that goes beyond a mile. And I realize you have your legislation, but if we are crafting an intermunicipal agreement, I would love to see some sort of flexibility that if there needs to be, and I'm just going to make something up now, a mini transportation terminal that CDTA needs to transport hotel workers to the hotels out in the Wolf Road area, or the hotel corridor, that something like that could be funded out of this innovation authority, or through some financial benefit that all those hotels are paying for, even though they're not within a proximity. It just strikes me that that sort of would put everybody in some part of a beneficial posture.
Yeah,
So
I think we'd be happy to consider that, but we anchored it to the fact that you have this, we'll
Well, but I'm
chat.
saying,
Yeah.
that may be her
Yeah.
limitation, but we as a county structuring this agreement.
No, we got it, I
Yeah,
understand.
Bethlehem,
Yeah.
Altamont, there
Yeah,
could be
it's
different
okay.
things.
You
Okay.
got it.
The other, I'm sorry, and I really have
Hold
just,
on, before you keep going, does
Yep.
anybody else have any other questions? I want to,
absolutely.
Mr. Burley.
Yeah, I had two quick ones. One actually relates to the topic that Mr. Bergdorf brought up, and sort of illustrate the point which I share by example. So in the next couple of years in Mr. Reedy's district, there's going to be significant development with Costco and the Cancer Center, hotels, So in the course of those years, those facilities will be producing a lot of money into the hot tax fund, right? And that will then trigger these various bonus provisions in this legislation,
Potentially.
right? So you will be benefited from that activity in Westmere. And the result of that, by virtue of this innovation fund, is that then additional money will be spent within a mile of downtown Albany, right? So the activity and the traffic and all the stuff has been borne by people in Westmere. The consequence of that will trickle down so that it will result to new projects for people in Center Square and Arbor Hill and South End and downtown. So I find that, inherently,
Yeah, I guess
that's unfair.
I get the point. I don't think about it as projects potentially, but I think about it as more sort of events and things that we bring people. But why don't we not belabor that? I got it,
Okay,
we'll talk about that.
The other question I had relates to the distribution on the county's end of the bonus fees, and that my understanding is it would all go to the Advance Albany Alliance. Was consideration given to a distribution that would also include the Discover Albany? Because
No.
and it stands to reason, though, that, if there is a significant amount of additional activity and traffic at the convention center, Discover Albany's job is going to be made, more difficult. They're gonna have more work.
That's the city's economic development arm,
That is yours. That is the
It's
county.
ours.
Discover.
Discover Albany is the county's third-party, it's a third-party arrangement, that Discover Albany is your destination marketing.
They also already get a portion of the hot tax.
And that portion would
To be clear.
increase, and that portion would increase as a percentage as the amount increases.
Yeah.
So that 15%.
But not the fee, the bonus fees to the county.
fees, we
But-
were
but the-
targeting toward
That, because that was negotiated with the county, right? But if this plan goes into place, as things increase, they will also benefit.
Understood. The rising tide will lift all
Correct.
boats.
Right, and they already get, look at the screen, they already get twice as much as the Albany County Alliance gets. We're trying to kind of equalize things
Okay.
because our, the alliance is so, in my view, kind of disproportionately
Underfunded.
underfunded.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would just bear in mind, though, that if we are as successful as we hope,
Yeah.
that's going to directly impact
Yeah.
the scope of work at Discover Albany, so.
I would also just point out that almost every project that the Alliance has completed and is undertaking is outside the city of Albany.
Can I make a statement?
But another point, we'll take it all back.
Just because this is on public record. We partner with Discover Albany. We also financially support Discover Albany in our budget. So they, it's a very untraditional relationship that we have comparative to other localities and other destinations. So I just want to make sure you understand that our agreement with Albany County is that we are giving the fee to Albany County, and how you disperse that fee is up to all of you, right? But for us, it is a fee to the county in exchange for being able to backstop our debt reserve fund, and how you distribute the funding is up to you. We utilize, just like MVP Center, just like Empire State Plaza, just like Marriott and Desmond, we utilize the services of Discover Albany. They have come before you and have indicated that they would like to see more money. They do receive more money as the destination benefit, as the destination is successful. We all, just like you had mentioned, see the rising tide. But I just really want to make sure it's on public record that we are not saying the Albany Convention Center is not saying Discover Albany. We are just saying we are partnering with the county on this agreement, and how the county wants to distribute the funds is up to you.
And one last question on the innovation fund. If we hit those 4% triggers for 2 or more years, is there a percentage that will then go to the innovation fund, or?
We haven't decided that yet.
It's hard when you don't know what the numbers are,
Right.
right? Like, so it could be,
But would that be money that would otherwise, absent the innovation fund, would have gone to Advance Albany Alliance?
no,
No,
it's extra.
no. This is on top of the other administrative fees.
Okay.
But no, we haven't fleshed out some of those things.
Okay, so it'd be an additional, it would be additional payment from the convention center.
So, right, the convention center will set aside some money in conjunction with the group, right? We're very public, we're transparent, all of our financials are online. And we would work together to establish a fund amount. And then that fund amount, through various, as we develop the program, could be invested in people and places. And then we can certainly take a look at what that would look like.
Okay, last question, because we have a public hearing that we have
Yes.
to get to, so.
This is just a quick question, and I didn't realize it's an hour. So your floor amount is $5.5 million. If your floor amount is $8 million, does that affect anything here?
So I have done projections outward to 2030.
Right?
So the 5.5 will allow us to operate, pay our bills, do all the stuff based on very conservative projections going outward. So when you say, will it change? No, you're saying 5.5 is sufficient to,
That's my question. So if
It's
your expenses won't go to $8 million, you don't think by 2030? I guess that's
No.
my question.
We
As
have
an example.
5.5 is articulated in the
Yeah.
agreement.
Okay.
we're saying that we project that our floor when we're paying full debt service, all that stuff
Okay.
is 5.5.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, great, so we gotta vote on this.
I'll move 249.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I am abstaining from that. Okay, next is,
250.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm abstaining from that one too. Okay, 2324, table at request of sponsor. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Joanne, if Monica, Joe and Dave, can I just ask you a question? I didn't want to take up time. Yeah, it's about the bonding.
Yeah.